For anybody that's forgot, it's June 12th, Thursday, and the big question is, where will the investment money come from? When will Canadians get their money back? Are the BC NDP in the way of a more prosperous Canada? Word salad's all too common for the Liberals. Boeing Dreamliner crashes in India. And are we one nation or 13 separate economies? We're going to answer all those questions today on The Really Big Show. I'm Jim Check with Now Media. With me, Ian Burns, our managing editor. And I'm going to figure out my talking here. I'm kind of stumbling over myself, but I'll get around to it. And beautiful day in the Okanagan again. In the nation's capital, how are things looking?
I'm just going to say, it's almost like you're auditioning to be a cabinet minister with that kind of verbal fluency. They'll be headhunting you soon.
With all those blah, 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 blah. I'm like right up there. I think I should run.
I would say as well, this is very off topic, but ChatGPT, they've updated their voices and they're like that now. They're like, because kind of like, it's like you're a robot. Like robots aren't supposed to speak like that. As for the weather, anyway, patches of sunshine, high of about 20 degrees, I think. Clouds all over the place.
There you go. $30 billion in new investments needed to meet Canada's critical mineral demand, says the report. But will that happen? Will that happen? The Canadian Climate Institute's reports say cutting back on environmental safeguards and Indigenous consultation to speed up those projects is likely to backfire. There you go.
I wonder why they would say that.
The think
wonder
tank's
if they have a dog in the race.
Yeah, the think tank's latest report comes as the federal government, along with Ontario and BC, face major pushback from First Nations and environmental groups to legislation intended to speed up mining approvals. In Canada, it takes 20 years to get a mine permitted and operating. 20 years. I worked.
By which point, the technology that the minerals were going to help create is long out of date, and it might be a completely different material that's needed.
Yeah, and Canada has that EV mandate, and there's 6 key critical minerals for that: lithium, copper, and amongst others there, with the solar panels and all that stuff. And I just don't know. Like I was a mine site controller, and it took forever to get anything done, and that was way back when, and it's even worse now. So we tried to get a mine off the ground there in northern Manitoba. So
even now, when we're being told, the official line from Canada's elite class, from the people that are in charge of the country, the official line is that we're on the verge of extinction. Like we might be, scrubbed from the pages of history because of the Americans. So it's like, if you listen to them, this is as bad as it's ever been and as serious as it's ever been. And yet they're still having the same old arguments. It's like, the AFN coming out threatening, basically implying anyway that it's going to be civil disorder. BC saying no, Quebec saying no. It's just the same. It's the same old party, isn't it?
And then the Liberal government in the last 10 years, I would say, not accountable and irresponsible in spending the taxpayers' money. And then so there's a bunch of Conservative MPs asking for the money, get the money back from places like the ArriveCan app. And here's some of the Conservative MPs asking for the money and the response from our Prime Minister.
When will taxpayers get their money back?
Stand up. Tell us, what date are Canadians getting their $100 million back? When?
When will we get our money back?
When will the Canadian taxpayer get their money back?
When can taxpayers expect a refund?
When will the hardworking men and women of this country get their money back?
When will the Liberals turn off the taps to their friends and focus instead on clawing back the money from this fraudulent GC strategy?
When will the Liberal Prime Minister get the money back that his government took from every Canadian's pocket?
I ask the Prime Minister again, when will taxpayers get their money back?
That's a good question.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question. I thank the Auditor General for her service. I note that GC strategy has been prohibited from government contracts for 7 years, and it's that standard, the minimum. As a member of Canada's new government and a new member of Parliament, we will uphold higher standards, Mr. Speaker.
If you yield the government of Canada money, they'd get it from you right away.
Would you pay money to go and see that standard of theatrical production? I don't think so. It's just not good enough, is it? But the Tories, I mean, what a coincidence that they all asked the same question. It's almost like they decided to do that beforehand, or were told to do that by Pierre Poilievre, who's just sent us an email saying, the headline, or the title of which is, "Get the Money Back." So obviously the Tories are trying to talk about this a lot. But it is obviously as well very much a legitimate concern, isn't it? This kind of just waste. And this is symbolic, really, isn't it? It's like it comes to about $60 million, doesn't it? That's been lost in this one case that people are talking about. Obviously, that's chicken feed, isn't it, in terms of the Canadian expenditure, the federal government's expenditure, the sort of money they spend is astronomical. So that's a small amount. But it's symbolic, I think, of two things. One you just alluded to, which is completely accountability-free zone in Ottawa. It's like it has special privileges, apparently, where you can just fail in the most dramatic way and not be held accountable for it. And then the other thing is just this endless, well, not just fraud, but waste of money over and over and over again. And it just seems like they just pile on top of one another, don't they? And it's just so demoralizing. It really kind of drags down the morale of the whole country, I think.
Yeah, accountability has been missing in the Liberals for the last 10 years. You know, if Mark Carney wants to make a name for himself or give Canadians some confidence, he should go after these people. He should go after them and get the money back. He should also get the money back from Brookfield Asset Management and that $5 billion tax dodge. If he wants to show that he's going to hold the government accountable, there's the opportunity. Instead of that smirk and saying that he's a new member of Parliament and a new government, it's the same people sitting back there that were responsible for doling out that money with no accountability.
You can literally see one of them right there, yeah. Anita Anand. She's got her specs on to try and conceal her identity. But we know who you are, Anita. We can see you.
Yeah, anyway. And then the National Post put out a piece there saying the BC NDP is the biggest obstacle in the country to developing Canada's natural resources. Well, they control the coastline. They have the ability for us to ship our goods overseas. That is one of the biggest.
They are the yang to Alberta's yin, aren't they? And they're not. They're not budging.
And, you know, they talk about one economy instead of 13. They're not proving it to be very much one economy. It seems very fractured, though. Very fractured.
But also, look, the federal government has been throwing its weight around quite a lot lately. We've seen it with housing, healthcare. Even just, there was a transformation about 3 or 4 years ago under Justin Trudeau where he suddenly discovered that he had power as the Prime Minister and that he could actually make things happen in housing. Because you remember, really not that long ago, in news years, not that long ago, Justin Trudeau was coming out and saying, housing's got nothing to do with me. That's not my responsibility.
It's not a federal
what are you talking about? Do you not understand the Canadian Constitution and all kinds of patronizing crap like that? And then he suddenly discovered, like, oh, hold on, I've got this massive bag of money and lots of other sort of powers, and I can make things happen. So now the Liberal Party apparently is in charge of housing in Canada. You know, it's basically their thing entirely now, isn't it? So that's an example. And then health is another one, obviously. Natural resources, very much. Like, they have powers. They can make British Columbia acquiesce. They can make them back down. For sure they can. And it's not like there's a separatist movement in BC. You can slap BC around quite a bit, I think. And, there's room there to push back against BC. There's not much room to push against Quebec, obviously, and there's not much room to push against Alberta. So it would make sense, wouldn't it?
Well, if you need some confidence, you just got to listen to the MP, Melanie Joly. Here's a clip here from Melanie Joly.
But these investments that we've supported are particularly important as they're battery plants. Battery plants are good for the EV sector, but they're good also for other sectors of the economy. And so that is something that we're looking at, because essentially they can be applicable to many industrial sectors that need basically energy in a box, which is a battery. So I want you to think about that, because it's not only linked to EVs.
If she was my server in McDonald's and she spoke like that, I would say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go with someone else. I don't think you're going to get me a Big Mac. I want a Big Mac. You're not, it's not within your intellectual ability, I don't think, to get me that Big Mac. I would walk away. But she's like one of the most powerful people in Canada. It's just, what is going on?
Let's maybe take a look at some of these battery investments that have gone on so far. Northvolt.
That was a barnstorming success, wasn't it?
How was the money that was invested in the Honda EV plant?
That was Trump's fault, though, wasn't it? I think we can blame Trump for that.
Thing is, Line Energy, another one. I mean, we can come up with a list. I mean, this guy says $50 billion, and you know, it's around that number. They just have technology that that is not at the top tier. Like, you know, the only people that are making batteries that I know of that are any good are Tesla and CATL out of China.
But I think it's also just you can't just, like, as the federal government, you can't just start throwing money around and just like invent an industry, just make things happen like that. It's much more of a bottom-up business, isn't it? You need to have other things in place.
One thing she does,
not the case.
One thing she does grasp is she said it's an energy in a box, you know. So she's got that down.
Just like a Big Mac.
Yeah, it's energy in a box. It is actually energy in a box. Might not be the best energy in a box, but it is energy in a box. But maybe
not
that's
very efficient.
Maybe that's the energy she should be first. You know, get her sea legs under her with that before she does the billions and billions of dollars. Like, Mark Carney's got to watch this stuff and go like, what am I doing? Like, or is that what he wants?
I mean,
a clown show.
Surely he was aware of Melanie Jolie's powers, let's say. He must have known what she was about. Likewise, Francois Philippe Champagne, like, surely he's watched, even just watching like the news, he must have known what that man was about and what this woman is about. Like, there's nobody on the planet outside of the upper echelons of the Liberal Party that thinks that either of those people are particularly intelligent or competent. So I don't know what was going through Mark Carney's head. And obviously there are consequences, because in Parliament, question period is a waste of time. It's a stupid, infantile show, isn't it? It's crap. But sometimes you do see actual organic expressions of emotion. And you saw it there when Carney used the term new government. And they just burst out laughing. Like, that was completely natural, wasn't it? That wasn't like an attempt to insult Carney or belittle Carney. That was just a natural, like, what the hell, just laughing. And the reason that they're laughing about that is because people like Melanie Jolie and Anita Anand and all the rest of them are still there. They're still in control of all the main departments, all the main ministries. So yeah, it's a problem for Carney. It could be a political problem. And Chrystia Freeland obviously is another one. You can't just keep wheeling out these people and expect newfound respect to spontaneously emerge for them.
Well, we talked about housing, and now how the federal Liberals are now like that's their number one thing. And here we go. The budget office yesterday forecasts housing starts will remain far short of the cabinet's affordability targets for years to come. You know, like so much for the 500,000 a year target, and then it shows you projected houses and apartments completed in 2025. These are the projections, so they're far short, like half. 236, 237, barely growing, 241, 248, 256, 261. Far short of the 3 million that are supposedly needed. And there you go.
I mean, it's not, calling it half is almost giving them too much credit. It's not half. It doesn't even reach half until 2029. And it's only 2 years of slightly above half. I mean, it's like
the cabinet
miles away.
The Liberal cabinet said it requires a minimum construction of at least 500,000 new homes annually to the end of the decade to restore affordability. The budget office predicts starts will peak at fewer than 262 in 2030. I mean, that's what I mean. You make up a number, and Carney was given Polyev gears for his numbers, and he would actually stoke investment. And I've heard now, like some in the back channels, that they're going to encourage you to cut up your house, and that's going to count as a new home. So you're going to put a suite in your home, and that'll count as a home. Or maybe they'll massage the numbers somehow. Maybe force you to put a suite in your home.
But I mean, they did talk specifically about new homes, didn't they, in construction? I mean, unless they're going to say that a dividing wall counts as construction.
Yeah. Again, it doesn't look good.
But just look at that, though. Another sentence here. The 1-year record for new constructions was set in 1976, and it was 273,000.
And that's when we had
1976, when there were loads of young people.
Yeah, loads of young people
in the trades. Because you need young people to build things. Obviously, you can't do it with people in their 60s and 70s, which we have in abundance. It was also a time when prices were a lot lower. Land was a lot more available.
Delays, and there was regulations. All those things weren't in the way. Like, I mean, if you look at, like, we even talked about in this local market here, we had a builder on that said it took them 1.5 years to get a permit for a single-family home in Lake Country. 1.5 years. I mean, that's the big. I mean, if you look at the DCCs, and we had Renee Merrifield on here talking about how the cities have these huge surpluses in DCCs, yet they continue to charge higher and higher DCCs every time somebody tries to build a home. They're in their way of actually doing it. And you know, like what they offered comparatively, what the Liberals offered was no GST on first-time home buyers, which first-time home buyers typically don't buy new homes, and where Polyev offered was no GST on all new homes under $1.5 million, and huge difference. And they would have stoked companies to invest and start building. It would have been a huge difference. And here we are, stuck again. And Ontario housing starts at the lowest level since 2009, says a financial watchdog. Yeah, it's projected at 71,000 housing starts in total for 2025, down sharply from the projection of 92.3. And yeah, so it's just rough out there. So
yeah, I mean, but you're not going to be that motivated to build homes if you're watching prices come down or stagnate. Yeah. That's and then nothing else has changed. So it's not like there's a great profit incentive there for the builders. And then also the same old obstacles are in the way. And that's another thing that Polyev suggested. I mean, whether or not he would have achieved this is another question. But he sort of said he was going to bully and threaten municipalities, wasn't he, to try and get them to bring down, you know, barriers to home building. And also that, you know, that would mean the likes of charges and things like that, the cost. And then he also talked a lot, didn't he? I mean, he was accused of not really thinking this through, but he talked about federal properties being released en masse. So, you know, he actually did have some other ideas beyond just a target, which it seems, sadly, is all that the Liberals have to offer.
Podium talk. Another former deputy finance minister that was instrumental in the unlawful use of the anti-terror law to freeze Freedom Company bank accounts yesterday was promoted to the head of the Federal Public Service. So Michael Sabia, there you go. He's going to be the clerk of the Privy Council and secretary to the cabinet. And here's Chrystia Freeland congratulating him, and then, you know, and Mark Carney congratulating him as well. And there you go. Sabia in 2022 played a key role in enforcing the national freeze of bank accounts held by Parliament Hill protesters. A federal judge in 2024 ruled the action was unlawful. There you go. He's back.
That's another thing that just is not, just like a lot of what happened during COVID, there's not enough scrutiny of what happened with this, is there? I don't think. I mean, and this is an example. If there was a lot of scrutiny, there's no way this would have been politically acceptable.
Yeah, and then there's no accountability because, am I saying his name right? Sabia's finance department ordered RCMP to compile a blacklist of protest sympathizers under the Proceeds of Crime and Terrorist Financing Act. and an estimated 7.8 million was frozen in 437 bank accounts and credit unions. That was including that baker in Victoria there that made a $250 donation to the Freedom Convoy, and she had her business almost destroyed. And where is the accountability? Even though the judge said it was unlawful, where was the repercussions for Michael?
I mean, look at this here as well. He was asked, you were given no information that these individuals in Ottawa protesting were terrorists. And his response was, I'm not going to give you a yes or no answer. I mean, he's certainly suited to public service then, isn't he, if that's how he speaks.
So one of the darkest moments in Canada's history for freedom of expression and that. And these people all seem to be crawling out, including, Mendocino when he was Carney's chief of staff temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reward like a liberal reward.
Chrystia Freeland as well. I mean, she was pretty much the face of that, wasn't she?
No accountability. None. They should be ashamed even to want to put their face back forward here. And you talk about a person that is like completely shameless. Here we have a clip here from, I don't even know how he's still getting FaceTime. Our friend Charlie Angus.
Morning, I offer my deep concern, solidarity, and prayers with the people of California. Streets unarmed, defending the rule of law against illegal kidnapping and deportation, and they're being faced down by the military might of the United States Marines. We're not talking about creeping fascism here. This is full-on police state tyranny from the gangster president Donald Trump. And this is the man who will soon be crossing our border to attend the G7 meetings in Canada. I have received hundreds of messages of concern and outrage from Canadians that a convicted felon, sexual predator, and a man who has threatened our nation's sovereignty is being allowed into our country. I understand the Prime Minister Carney's reluctance to escalate the situation with the MAGA president. But we have to stop kidding ourselves, and we have to be very honest about what we are being asked to engage with. Donald Trump poses a clear threat to American democracy, to Canadian sovereignty, and to the international rule of law.
I wonder how that 17-year-old got trapped inside that 60-year-old man's body. Like, how did that actually happen?
Like the stuff that he spews, it's actually embarrassing for anybody to listen to. And he represented our government at one time. He was a representative of our government. Just crazy.
It's just, he's an adolescent. He even sounds like an adolescent. He's got the voice of a 17-year-old.
And here's another
as
story.
Well as the mind.
He said he's not going to run for the NDP leadership, though. The NDP is out for years, according to Charlie Angus, and they should be out permanently, especially with that. If that's what the NDP has, that is like, to say those things, the rhetoric and stuff like that, and make those accusations, just nonsense, pure nonsense. And it said it will take years, the Federal Democratic Party will take years to rebuild after their disastrous April 28th election. And that's from Charlie Angus's mouth. It's going to be a rough 4 years. It's going to be a rough forever for you, Charlie Angus. There you go. Jagmeet Singh, what he did to that party will be his legacy. And for his own selfish needs, it seems. I don't know what else he did it for, but there should have been an election a long time ago.
They certainly got a lot of favors out of the Liberals, didn't they? They got a lot of their projects put through, like dental care and stuff like that. But then the Liberals have just claimed that as their own now, and they're rarely challenged on it. I mean, you read stories in the CBC now where they talk about that, and it's just they don't even mention that it was the NDP that made that happen, that they threatened the Liberals with an election, basically, if they didn't deliver on that.
The sad thing about when Charlie Angus spews stuff like that, there's people out there that actually believe what he's saying and get all fired up over it. You know what I mean? They believe what comes out of his mouth.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's somebody for everyone, isn't there? I guess.
There you go. Danielle Smith. Here's a little clip from Danielle Smith.
Well, I hope the Prime Minister doesn't want to test it because I take it seriously. I have never seen separatist sentiment be as high as it is right now. We've done our own polling and we've seen numbers as high as 37%. You look historically, I don't know if it's ever been that high. But again, I've also seen it dissipate when Ottawa addresses the legitimate concerns Alberta has. And I'm not kidding that the 9 demands are my short list. I know that there are other tensions that we have with the federal government, but a lot can get resolved when you have the means, because people have good paying jobs, and you also have the revenues to be able to address some of the social pressures.
There you go. See what I mean? There's someone on our comments right now that believes what Charlie Angus has to say. There you go. Why not?
Oh, this fella. You guys watch Fox News too? Have you watched Fox News lately, Bill? They don't sound very much like us.
Yeah. So anything that, like, I mean, that's what it is. You get people like that spew that nonsense, and then they get people like that defending that nonsense, and there you go. And that's why.
Are you funded by the CIA? He's just dropped a diamond there for us.
All right, there you go. You know what, Bill? We're not funded by anybody, including the government, like the rest of the media here in Canada. So.
But if the CIA does want to fund us, if you want to fund us, Mr. CIA, you know where we are.
Danielle Smith putting out again, saying that stuff needs to happen. I think she's going to start to lose patience because what is happening? Not a lot of anything. Well, there you go, Bill.
Well, she's like just saying. She's saying, I'll do it. I'll do whatever you want. I'll decarbonize. We can build the nuclear power plants that are built so that they can capture polluted air and bury it in the ground. We'll do whatever you want. Just give us that pipeline. She's like on her knees here, isn't she? So I suppose if she's still rejected after having sort of agreed to all of the demands of the Carneyites, then I think she'll be furious, won't she?
And then we've got this ad here done by CBC for the Liberal Party. How nice of them. They get what are they at? Well, $1.7 billion now. So this is a nice ad they put up and then the Liberal Party gladly retweeted it. Nicely put together too.
I just like that Chinook with the little ski feet.
There you go.
That's the most interesting part of that tweet, I think.
Yeah, and if Bill's still here, he's going to love this next one because RFK appointed Dr. Robert Malone to the Advisory Committee of Immunization Practices days after firing the entire panel. And CTV put out a piece and says, new U.S. vaccine panel includes members who criticize vaccines and spread misinformation. CTV spread no misinformation, didn't they? They were so good at it. They were actually
they got almost everything right, didn't they? Just like all the public health officers, they just got everything right 100% of the time.
Yeah, and there you go. And that's Dr. Malone is the inventor of the mRNA vaccines and has become a hero to many of the other people out there. So I don't know. And again, that brings us to Bill C-18. If you're still there, Bill, the Canadian media is being choked off. The independent media, well, the government, Liberal government, selectively funds some. So if that's what you think of freedom of the press, then you're in the right place, because Bill C-18 still the only G7 nation that does not allow news on Meta's platforms, and the same platform that the Liberals now spend millions of dollars out there to, they say, is important to get their message out to, because they recognize Canadians get their news from social media, but not good enough for the news outlets to put their information on there.
Well, it's there's a lawsuit, one of many lawsuits, going through the courts. The Supreme Court is now going to hear a claim against Facebook that they sort of violated the Privacy Act and all kind. I mean, there are all manner of lawsuits, though. That's not the only one, but they do happen to be in the news today. Not for a good reason, Mr. Facebook there. Mark Carney and the Liberals, I mean, Pascal Santone, she used to be in charge of this, Bill C-18. She said numerous times how they were like irresponsible and spreading misinformation and just the worst things that you could say about a company, really. Like, saying that they were they were basically facilitating evil. That's pretty much what they said. But at the same time, obviously, you still got to give an evil guy millions and millions of dollars, haven't you? Naturally. I mean, who doesn't do that?
Yeah, so here's Patty Hajdu saying that it's not in the public interest to put Canada Post's latest offers to workers for a vote. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers has rejected the idea of a membership vote on the latest offer, requesting arbitration instead. But Hajdu said she'll direct the Canadian Industrial Relations Board to hold a ballot as soon as possible. Oh, it's in the public interest.
Yeah.
Canada Post's latest offer.
Is this ever going to be solved? And I mean, it seems like time's already run out.
No.
When are they going to realize that this is an emergency?
Yeah. And there you go. And then that crash that happened in India there, a 787-8 Dreamliner, and supposedly there's one man that survived the crash. We're going to play the clip of the crash that's all over the internet here. We're just going to play it. You can see it. It's just as it's taking off too. There you go. And they believe that there's about 200 people that have perished, and they're including people in the building that it crashed into. It crashed into a building that housed doctors. There was 169 Indian nationals on that plane, 53 Britons, 7 Portuguese, and 1 Canadian. And they were on the way to Gatwick Airport. And it basically crashed about a minute after takeoff. It didn't even pull its landing gear up. It just seemed to be losing altitude. There's a bunch of pilots that are looking at it. If you go, if Bill's still there, if you go and watch that, you'll see on some of the networks, they got some of the, pilots and that looking at that, and they got some different angles as well now. So
it's bad news, more bad news for Boeing, though, isn't it? The Dreamliner's like, that's sort of their bread and butter, isn't it? That's the golden child. So
yeah, and there hasn't.
Presumably, it's it's gonna have to be investigated. Could easily be pilot error, couldn't it? But
they did
it's
issue
not good
a
news
mayday
for
call.
Boeing anyway.
They did issue a mayday call as they were going down, and the Dreamliner supposedly has a pretty spotless record. But there is one survivor so far. And this is from BBC. A British passenger in seat 11A supposedly survived that plane crash.
Crazy if he's the only one. There have been a few crashes like that in history where just one person survived, but absolutely mad if that's the case. And it's just the one. But Air India is quite that's quite a good airline in general. I've flown on Air India before. It's not one of those airlines that's associated with a poor safety record or anything like that. So you got Boeing and also the Dreamliner and then Air India. So it's kind of like these aren't usually the kinds of parties involved in plane crashes.
Yeah,
so,
and that big fireball there would be because it would have been loaded with fuel. It was going to London. I mean, to the UK Gatwick Airport. So it would have been full of fuel, and then it crashed into a building because it would just look like it was just like floating back, like it was losing. I think some of the people talking there saying that it looked like it wasn't in its, like at full power. It was losing altitude.
Yeah, and obviously the landing gear was still down as well. Very sad.
Dr. Leslie Lewis there, she's put out a tweet there that says, Gen Z facing the worst job market in decades. We talked about this yesterday too. The May job report from StatsCan showed a 20% unemployment rate for students aged 15 to 24, and that's 3% higher than this time last year. And then what did the Liberal government do? They said they're going to give out 6,000 summer jobs. That should fill the hole. Nope. Not a chance.
And it's, as well, the way they're doing it is classic sort of Liberals, if I may say so. My beloved Liberal friends. Because the way they do it is they basically give money to companies, don't they? It's not like a direct employment thing. They just give money to companies so that they can hire someone. So it's like the middleman is still in there.
But they're not going to be giving any money to GC Strategies for a while. 7 years they got their contracts pulled for 7 years, not forever, 7 years. But those two guys
Well,
might
and
have
also,
just...
I'm sure they just make a new company, can't they?
CG strategy is just this rolled up. How did they get that many? Two guys. How did two guys get that many contracts? It just blows me away. Anyway. Saskatchewan government rolls back all U.S. tariff countermeasures, and then similar to Alberta's, like and BC not liking that. Kind of took a shot at Alberta for doing it, and there's Scott Moe doing the same thing. So, one economy. And then we talked about this quite a bit. How Trudeau would not sell LNG to Japan. South Korea, Germany, said there's no business case for it, but he wanted to sell them hydrogen. And here we go. Newfoundland hydrogen companies behind in bills as industry hype boils off. There you go. We talked about that.
There's a couple of experts in there, and one of them says something like, back in 2021, 2022, like absolutely everybody just thought that hydrogen was the bee's knees and it was going to dominate. That everybody thought that. And then obviously now, maybe not. But I'm just thinking, did everybody think that? Because I don't think I ever thought that.
Well, the stock market tells the real truth most of the time. Money talks. So let's pull up a chart of Ballard, one of the biggest in Canada, biggest hydrogen companies. That they were selling buses and systems for buses and boats and all that stuff. And here's Ballard. Here's the stock chart of Ballard. Roared, like you just said, 2021, 2020, 2021, peaked right there and fell off a cliff. And I invested in Ballard as well. I invested in Ballard back in 2019 or something like that. And I sold early. I think I sold, in the first part of 2020 because I thought the hype was too much. Obviously, I sold too early. And I think I could have really made some good money. And the thing went to forever and I gave up. But then look, I can buy it back now. But
I don't think it's going to increase in value.
but that shows you right there. That tells you right there where hydrogen's at. All these people that are still talking hydrogen. Toyota tried to float a hydrogen car. Kelowna has like one hydrogen station. They just don't have what it still takes more energy to create hydrogen than you get out of it. It seems like a false economy, no? It's a good.
But
it's
it just
basically
seems like
battery storage.
Yeah. And very inefficient, and some argue a little bit dangerous as well. But the thing is, it's like it just seems like people are trying to do absolutely anything they can to avoid using what actually works, what we know works.
Yeah.
And it's just like pointless. It's almost like they're cutting their own feet off. Yeah. We're in a race here, aren't we? Most people acknowledge that we're in a race to try and sort of bring down emissions, but that requires technology. So what's the best way to win this race? Is it to cut our feet off and then crawl to the finish line?
And everybody that wants to talk and that still talks this stuff on hydrogen, talks it up and says it's going to be all end all. Tell them, there you go. You can go to the Toronto Stock Exchange and you can buy BLDP on the cheap, and you can put your money where your mouth is and show us the way. And but like this. The Newfoundland and Labrador, as the provinces owed a collective $13.7 million in fees from companies using Crown land. Carlos Povilis, I can't even pronounce his name, from investment firm Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners, said the world thought everything was going to be running off hydrogen back in 21 and 22, and the hype was blown up. I don't know if the world thought that.
Yeah, it's like stop trying to bring everybody into your like
experts
Dunce's
say
hat party.
Clean energy experts say it's going to be the whole world. The only people, I mean, here locally we have our own UBCO professor and city councillor that is very much a proponent of hydrogen as well, and wants to see a hydrogen train here running here in the Okanagan Valley. Hydrogen, I mean, I've talked to him several times, I interviewed him several times. Hydrogen. Yeah, I just there's cheaper technologies like batteries and electricity, like that hydrogen. Just like Trudeau. Maybe Trudeau can buy all of Ballard Energy and he can go off into the sunset there, because he said he wouldn't sell LNG to other nations. We could have had so much money at this point. Instead, he was selling them hydrogen. Well, here you go. Here's another receipt for you. There's not much.
But the really sad thing is, you're saying we could have had money. Yeah, that's a valid point and something that obviously most people in Canada do care about. But the worst thing and the saddest thing is that had he gone ahead with that, then emissions out of places like India and pollution as well, like the air quality
down,
and China would have gone down. It would have actually made a little bit of a dent in the the emissions, global emissions, which is supposedly what people like Justin Trudeau care about the most. So that, to me, that's almost the worst thing. Like, that LNG could have displaced coal. It could have displaced brown coal, lignite, like absolute worst of the worst. Alas, Justin Trudeau said no. He chased this distraction, and the world is a dirtier place now because of that decision.
Apparently, our Prime Minister and Energy Minister are chasing similar distractions because they won't commit to an oil and gas pipeline, or LNG pipelines for that matter. And they still talk about making Canada an energy superpower. In what, though? We'd have to question. In what? The G7 is getting closer and closer, and according to Charlie Angus, and Jagmeet Singh, they don't want Donald Trump in this country. That he is still the president of the world's largest superpower, and and Canada's so reliant on it. So they should watch their. Anyway.
But also, it's just so selective. Why is he not saying? I can't remember him ever saying anything about Joe Biden. Joe Biden, accused of sexual assault, accused of corruption many times, made racist comments many times. Where's the anger about him then? It's just too selective. I can't. How on earth do you expect to be taken seriously when you adopt that kind of double standard? It's like, this is what makes me think they're not actually trying to persuade anybody. It's all just a show, isn't it, for people that already agree with them?
And it's odd, too, because they say he's a threat to democracy, where he's obeying all the court orders that are being put up on him. It's not like he's blatantly, going against the courts in the U.S. It's slowing him down in many ways. But
he's
anyway,
never done that, has he? He turned up very sort of sheepish and defeated, didn't he, to that court in Manhattan? He has sort of complied every time.
The G7 getting closer, though. And there's optimism that Canada and the U.S. tariff deal could be agreed to between Carney and Trump before the G7, which begins on June 15th. I listened to one of his press conferences, and he didn't mention Canada because he said there's a bunch of deals that are close. He mentioned the likes of Japan. He mentioned the likes of China, the likes of South Korea and that, but Canada wasn't in that list. And there's talk that Mexico and United States have a deal. But he said that there's 150 countries that are have pending deals, and he's going to be sending out letters shortly instead of doing each one individually because there's too many. So hopefully Canada is not the recipient of a letter and is more the recipient of a trade deal, and not, how when you apply for certain things, some people get, the call just like, hey, you're on the team, and the other people get the letter. Just here's your letter.
A couple of weeks later.
Yeah, the letter that comes, and you're just like, sorry, you have not been selected. And then here's CNN had been running tons and tons of, we're moving on to international stuff, tons and tons of newscasts saying how peaceful it was. And here's CNN being Caitlin Collins interviewing one of the sheriffs there, talking about how peaceful the protests are. To run this clip.
Of all kinds. We arrested a number of people last night for curfew violations. I think 14, and 3 out of the 14 were armed with weapons, handguns. And so when you look at that, what appears to be one thing is something very different. We've seen in those backpacks that they'll have hammers, they'll break up curbstones and concrete bollards, break up into smaller pieces, which they'll then throw at police. They put them in backpacks and walk around like that. I've seen somebody today walking around with golf balls in a backpack. So all sorts of weapons, all very potentially dangerous. We've seen commercial-grade fireworks being fired at our people, with shrapnel being put in, from what I'm told, and into some of these packages. Again, that is pretty scary stuff when you look at it. Liquid being thrown on our officers, the attitude of our officers and the professionalism and restraint that they've shown is remarkable. They've done a tremendous job out there, and I'm very proud of them.
Nothing from Caitlin in response there.
No. They'll just move past that and then go back to something else, right? In other international news, Al Jazeera put this out. The U.S. Has announced that partial evacuation of the embassy in Iraq and allowing family members to leave And and there's some other tweets I've seen out there talking about that Israel is about to have an impending strike on Iran's nuclear plants. And the Iranian Ayatollah said in his speech there addressing the nuclear talks that Trump is lying, his statements are not worth a response. Death to America, death to England, and death to Israel, and death to the infidels.
Death to England, mate. Come on. Why do you want to kill England?
Yeah, there you go.
But no, this is like doing the rounds all over the place. It's not an exclusive to Al Jazeera or anything like that. It's CBS and also, and basically everyone, BBC, I think, have done it as well. That they are moving them out because I guess there's been word on the inside that Israel might strike at some point. So in my view, that could mean one of two things. One is that the Americans are really upset about this, so they've leaked it on purpose to try and sabotage it. That sort of thing has happened before, and that's possible. And then the other thing, I've forgotten. So yeah, it's probably the first thing. No, yeah, sorry. The other thing is that because they're having negotiations now, aren't they? So the other thing is they're probably trying to put pressure on Iran to say, like, look, if you don't start making some concessions in these negotiations, you're just going to get blown up by Israel. So don't be silly. I would say it's one of those two things. Like, this is kind of how countries behave. It's very childish, but they do things like this to sort of threaten and scare each other.
And then, Mark Carney said they're going to start spending some money on Canadian military, and including giving, I think I saw today, a 20% increase to the military. They deserve a raise, 100%. And then we're just going to show you this clip here from what they're facing. And here's China, just a clip on what China is starting to look like here. Not very many countries have aircraft carriers. Very few, actually, have aircraft carriers. And here's this clip of China showing off 2 of its aircraft carriers. There you go. And supposedly that is the first time.
How do they look in war, though? That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the first time they put those things out into deep water, supposedly. And Canada has no aircraft carrier. Like I said, very few nations have aircraft carriers. I think it's a handful. I think the United Kingdom
Japan.
The United Kingdom, I think, has 1 or 2.
2, yeah. The British have 2.
And then the Americans have several, many. And then the Russian. And then I don't know if the French have 1 or not, but
yeah, the French, I think they've got one called the Charles de Gaulle, don't they?
There you go. Very few nations have aircraft carriers, though, and China's been building them. And they're shipbuilders. And guess what else they're going to build? We're going to talk about it later. They're going to build our ferries too. We're giving them money so they can build more aircraft carriers. And that's what we're going to talk about next when we're into the BC news. And this is from MLA Harman Abangu. David EB just sold us out to the CCP. Well, China slaps tariffs on Canadian producers. That's the canola. EB hands him a multi-billion-dollar contract built overseas with no Canadian steel, no BC jobs. And there you go.
Zero benefit to our economy.
And they can use that money that they get to build more aircraft carriers. Why not?
Yeah, or to subsidize their domestic market for canola or whatever they're going to use to replace canola so that you can shaft Saskatchewan.
Oh, there you go. And then Tara Armstrong, MLA here out in Lake Country there. And she points out that the end winner again, once again, is China. At this point, how can anyone really be surprised? Elbows up, British Columbians. And that's, again, we can talk about that I thought, according to Melanie Jolie, that we were going to use Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum to build all our big projects and infrastructure. And here it is. And one economy, according to Mark Carney, one economy. And here we go. Not so much, right? And then Brian Lilly jumps into this too. No elbows up for China in BC, and Trudeau's big lie of the F-35 haunts us still. There you go. And then the business leader says, BC Ferries hiring a Chinese shipper is an informed decision. A business leader on ferry-dependent Vancouver Island says BC Ferries made a strongly informed decision in hiring the Chinese shipyard. Both the NDP government and BC Conservative opposition have criticized the choice of Weihaus shipyards to build the new ferries. The NDP very timid about their objection, right? But the decision is also making waves in Ottawa, where Conservative MP Jeff Kibble, whose riding neighbor is Victoria, asked the Transportation Minister, Chrystia Freeland, whether Ottawa would make a $33 million federal grant to BC Ferries conditional on Canadian-built ships. And Freeland said, oh, absolutely. She shared concerns about procurement levels, but noted the ferry agreement was not a federal contract. I thought it was one economy.
But it's also just like, why are you playing dumb? Why are you playing dumb? Obviously, you have power. I mean, in BC, they're doing the same thing. In the BC government, the BC NDP are just like, it's an independent company, guys. Nothing to do with us. Which completely dishonest way to
but they
represent
stand at the podium
BC Ferries. It's not really an independent company, is it? Come on.
They stand at the podium and tell you not to visit the United States, not to go there, not to do this thing, not to do that. Buy BC, buy local. And here it is, a multi-billion-dollar contract, and it goes to China.
And it's nobody's fault, apparently.
Yeah, nobody wants. Yeah, Chrystia says, well, it's not really a federal thing. But if you just listen, we could play the clip here if you want, where it's one economy, not 13. How many times has Mark Carney said that? One economy. One economy, not 13. One economy.
Quite a few times, yeah.
Well, where is it? Where is the one economy? This is a punch in the face to Scott Moe as well. Like a literal punch in the face. What?
Do you see this comment as well? The most important thing to remember is that BC Ferries will have a team on site in China overseeing the project. Well, that makes it okay then.
That's the most important thing, is it? Canadian steel, Canadian aluminum. There again is a BC corporation that has no faith in British Columbia.
Apparently, yeah. But it's just, I'm just sick of hearing these people make excuses for things like this. And they basically just want to throw their arms in the air and say, oh, there's nothing that we can do about it, lads. It's kind of the same thing when people get, like with bail reform, for example. They almost try and say, like, oh, there's nothing we can do. It's the judges, isn't it? And it's just like they're constantly trying to blame somebody else. But the reality is, Ottawa and Victoria, in this case, could prevent this. They could stop this from happening if they wanted to. It is within their power, and they need to be reminded of that. They can't just keep sort of shrugging their shoulders and pretending like it's somebody else's responsibility. It's their responsibility.
It shows you how powerless they actually are. It actually demonstrates how powerless they are and gutless they are. And I would say that this could be one.
Constitutionally, they have the power. But whether as individuals they have the power, that's the other question. Yeah.
This could well be one of the biggest scandals the NDP faced this year. If they don't pull it back right away, I mean, this is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And I would say right now, this is not going a long way to build unity across Canada. NDP says no to a pipeline for Alberta and then punches Scott Moe in the face from Saskatchewan because the canola tariffs. I don't know. And then David Eby lectures both Scott Moe and Danielle Smith on putting American liquor back on the shelves at the same time. It's like lunacy. It's absolute lunacy. Anyway.
It's just unserious, isn't it? I mean, I would call it student politics, but students tend to actually care a lot more about principles, in my experience.
Yeah.
So it's not even student politics, is it? I don't know what it is, but it's not edifying.
Yeah, so again, Vancouver short on hotel rooms, silent on safety costs for 2026 World Cup. Here's another one. They said they're not going to have hotel rooms for just like the Taylor Swift's big concert. And what's still going on in British Columbia? What's still going on here? The Airbnb thing.
Airbnb ban.
Right? Yeah, right. I was just at the Chamber event here in Kelowna where Finance Minister Brenda Bailey spoke, and they are not moving on that Airbnb regulation. So there you go. Both the province and city of Vancouver have regulations for short-term rentals, including rules on what types. So there you go.
To be fair, though, in this instance, we spoke to the NDP during the campaign for the election, and David Eby promised the world but he definitely didn't promise to change that. Because that was kind of, if you remember when you interviewed him, that was a bit of an awkward moment, wasn't it, where he had to kind of like admit, and he had to kind of chastise Loyal Woodbridge, his candidate in Kelowna. So, I mean, on this occasion, BC actually got what it voted for, I guess. But it's not going to look good, is it, if people are trying to get hotel rooms to watch the World Cup, and it's like thousands of dollars again, like it was for the Taylor Swift shambles.
You got swifted really in a hurry there when you're paying almost $3,000 for a hotel room that should be $200. So you got the Swift something. And we just left this here from the Canadian taxpayers. And then I would say on the Airbnb thing, this is a well-deserved D-.
Seems almost a little bit generous, doesn't it, D-, but okay.
And crisis after crisis, Lillooet again, and their mayor reluctant to speak. But here's another one. I wonder when they will speak and get angry and more frustrated. Lillooet's hospital ER shut down this time on Thursday to Saturday. How many times has Lillooet been shut down this year so far? Are we tracking? Because we track all the other ones. We must be tracking it somewhere. But Lillooet definitely.
Well, you have to ask. It's annoying because I track them. But I've gone to Interior Health a number of times, and what I've tracked has been different from what they've given me. So I think now and then maybe they don't release a shutdown or something like that. There's something going on. So you really do kind of need to get it from them. But Lillooet, by a very long way, has been the worst hit this year. It's just been like almost every day. It's just felt like it's constant.
Yeah, we got a little clip here. We're moving into markets. We got a little clip here. Futures jump a little bit as yields fall after CPI comes in a little, and PPI comes in a little lower. Here, let's play that clip here first.
There's no way to look at these numbers and say they're not welcome news. I mean, a downside surprise to core goods is where people were looking for potentially tariff effects, and maybe except for isolated areas that Steve mentioned, you're not quite getting that. So I think it's all net benefit.
Yeah, some of the numbers still coming in and decent there for, but UK Finance Minister, I just put this in here because UK Finance Minister Rachel Reeves' spending plans risk creating a snowball effect that pushes borrowing costs higher. And we talk about the UK and Canada kind of like following the same type of plan. And then on Wednesday, Rachel Reeves announced that the government would inject billions of dollars into defense, healthcare, infrastructure, and other areas of the economy. And federal funding public spending in the absence of a growing economy, similar to here, leaves the government with two options: raise money through taxation or take on more debt. And there you go.
There are people in, like very, very serious people, not just partisans, in England that are genuinely scared that there's going to be a debt crisis in England in the next year or two. Like a real full-blown, almost like developing country style debt crisis. So it's one to keep an eye on.
They came close to that once already, and our friend George Soros there tried to help that along as well.
Yep, and then the Liz Truss thing, that was related to pensions as well, though that was quite a complex. But I mean, it was fundamentally the same thing. It was like uncosted spending, basically, policies. And Rachel Reeves has done the exact same thing. So, I mean, it's scary, very, very scary. Because Britain is just broke, not just in a financial sense. It's broken in many, many ways. But
the difference between Canada and England is if Canada or England had our resources, they would probably use them. Whereas Canada has the riches. We just want to model the UK and pretend we don't have them.
The British have never really been too shy, never been too shy about using their resources. But lately, now that they're signed up for the net zero religion, they've decided that they're not going to extract, they're not going to do fracking to get shale gas. That's basically, they've just decided against that now. So they're catching on. But yeah, I mean, if they had the sort of resources that Canada had in terms of like minerals and all that, they would be all in on that, I imagine. Because they're desperate for money.
The markets are relatively flat, though, just this flat, and they're waiting for those deals to be signed. Just waiting for some clarity. Gold market up a little bit this morning. Gold is up right now. Gold is up, I think, about 20 $28, $28. Yeah, there you go. So gold up about $28. Still hanging on to that room there. That even the band, it seems to be getting a little tighter there. That either tells you it's looking to coil there, so it's either going to go up dramatically or fall. But crypto hanging in there as well, over solidly hanging on to that 100,000 mark right now. So there you go, crypto at 107. The Canadian dollar, again, just hanging in there as well, looking for direction. But the trend is up on the Canadian dollar. And again, it's on US dollar weakness, nothing to do with Canada's strength right now. It's more US dollar weakness. And then just I will mention that West Texas Intermediate down about 53 cents this morning and at 67.62. And Western Canadian Select at 52.63, a 22% discount from West Texas Intermediate. There you go. And into our we got a thing to play here. We're into our transportation and technology section here. We got a thing to play that you can kind of compare these two clips here. We got Elon talking about Grok 3.5, I think, going to be released. Let's listen to Elon talk about Grok 3.5.
Grok, especially with Grok 3.5 that is about to be released, it's trying to reason from first principles, so apply kind of the tools of physics to thinking. If you're trying to get to fundamental truths, you boil things down to the axiomatic elements that are most likely to be correct, and then you reason up from there, and then you can test your conclusions against those axiomatic elements. And in physics, if you violate conservation of energy or momentum, then you're either going to get a Nobel Prize or you're wrong, and you're almost certainly wrong, basically. So that's really the focus of Grok 3.5 is sort of fundamentals of physics and applying physics tools across all lines of reasoning, and to aspire to truth with minimal error. Like there's always going to be some mistakes that are made, but we aim to get to truth with acknowledged error, but minimize that error over time. And I think that's actually extremely important for AI safety.
There you go. That's Elon Musk talking about Grok 3. And then we have our head of AI here in Canada, Evan Solomon here. He's the Minister for AI. That's a new position. Evan got that position. He was, again, a former friend of Mark Carney. He was one that the CBC journalist that was fired for his art dealings with Mark Carney when Mark Carney, well, I think he was the UK bank governor at that time. There you go. So let's listen to Evan Solomon talk about AI.
Where the very country that built, sustained the small L liberal world post-Second World War is the very country now that is threatening that, and to dismantle it in a way that we have never imagined. And that is happening simultaneously as new technologies like AI and quantum are disrupting and reorienting the world. It's not just a shift in technology. It's a mistake to think like that. This is a paradigm shift. Essentially, we are at a Gutenberg-like moment, and we've got to recognize that. And it's just the beginning. If you mix those two dynamics of the political disruption and the technological disruption, and then you add some catalytic ingredients like disinformation, distrust, diseases like COVID, you get the twin stars of history blinking furiously, crisis and opportunity, crisis and opportunity. And you oscillate between the despair of the crisis and the awesome power of the opportunity we've got. And we've got to strike that balance. This is exactly why the Prime Minister created this new Ministry of AI and Digital Innovation, because he recognized it's not just a technological shift. Hey, adopt a little AI, find, things will get 20% more productive, and things are pretty good.
I'll let you go first.
There's a lot of waffle, really, wasn't it? I mean, it's almost like he's read a few Financial Times articles or articles in The Economist and then run it through ChatGPT and said, write me a speech as if I know what I'm talking about based on these articles. But I mean, also, I would say, to be a little bit more serious, there was no real content to that, was there? It was just descriptive, sort of quite emotive a more of look at the sort of morality, like ethical questions and things like that. I mean, and historical questions, societal questions. That's surely not what his job is. His job is to have concrete, to produce concrete, outcomes, to actually do something rather than just talk about it.
What I got out of that is he read the key words you need to say in there. I know one of the key words for liberals is catalyst or catalytic or
Oh yeah, you got that in.
Nailed that word. You got that word in there, and then yeah, it's just word salad of nothing. He's deeply unqualified for that post.
He got oscillating in there though. That's a scientific sounding word, isn't it? Clearly he knows his science. It's pitiable, isn't it? I mean, we're having a laugh, but it doesn't fill you with confidence as somebody. Like, at the end of the day, we need him to succeed, don't we? Even though he seems to not be all that much at the minute. We need him to succeed. And it's so sad that, like the rest of his colleagues, it doesn't really look like he's equipped to succeed, does it?
And we talk about this all the time, and it sounds like the Trump administration has taken California to court and got them to drop their EV mandates. Like I said, those EV mandates are falling in the United States, which means the auto sector will likely move to the U.S. if we continue along our EV mandate thing here. Dan McTeague here, and just like that. Canada's short-sightedness, the EV mandates come crashing down spectacularly like carbon taxes. Another nail in the coffin of net zero, because Trump's going to revoke the California vehicle emission rules on Thursday. And again,
I mean, even the British, who are very zealous about net zero, even they've started to chip away at EV mandates.
Yeah, I mean, the auto sector, I think Toyota came out and said that EVs are actually more harmful to the environment than hybrids. I don't understand their logic, but obviously that means they're not buying into the EVs, right? So there you go. And Honda delayed their plans, and on and on and on. I mean, I think the technology, if people want to adopt it, like I have, I think it's great, but you should do it because you choose to, not because you're forced to. And the auto sector, the legacy automakers, are nowhere near ready to do it. Nowhere near ready to do it.
It's just something that we're very familiar with now, isn't it? It's a disconnect between rhetoric or ideology and material reality. And it's the same with energy, same with so many things, isn't it? Really, yeah. And that's what needs to be solved. We need to bring those two things closer together. The ideas that come out of the heads of our elite, or rather, the ideas that end up inside of their heads, they need to come closer to reality. Then we can be a little bit happier, I think.
I think you have the makings of becoming the next MP because you got the finger thing down. You know what I mean? Like you got that going.
I need to learn Carney's one.
There you go. Sawyer Mayer put this out. The Boeing Company reportedly held preliminary talks with Tennessee state officials to explore the possibility of building a tunnel connecting Nashville and the Nashville International Airport. And I've experienced the Boring Company tunnels in Las Vegas, and they're amazing. Like, instead of going up top there where you can't even move, the Boring Company is just like fast, super fast. And I imagine shortly after they get their autonomous stuff going in Austin here on June 22nd now, I believe it is, that those cars going underground will without a driver, because when I was in it was with a driver. And then NVIDIA CEO, he was actually there in France there with Macron and our friend Evan Solomon, and Evan even got a photo bomb with him, like a photo, because like the Liberals love photo ops, right? So he actually got a photo with Jensen Huang. But Jensen Huang emphasized AI's potential to democratize technology access by reducing computing costs. He warned that Europe's cautious approach to AI regulation might hinder its innovation compared to US and China. And that is the thing that the Europeans and the Canadians are. They talk about innovation as like, how do we regulate it, as opposed to how do we innovate? And that's what Jensen Huang is. That is the danger for those Europe, and I would lump Canada into that mess.
Well, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Like, where are the massive tech companies in Europe and Canada? There are a few here and there, to be fair. They are there, and the brain power is definitely there, but they can't compete with the US, and that is in many ways because of the regulations.
They've invested into hydrogen, right? And not paying their bill.
They've invested. They've in places like England and the Netherlands, very gloomy parts of the world. They've invested in solar panels, so that's doing wonders for them.
Is AI ending website traffic? I know that a lot of people don't search on Google anymore, that they actually just go to ChatGPT and get an answer. But is AI actually going to cut news website traffic? Because it has cut already. The New York Times has dropped sharply. Some publishers are responding by licensing their content, so AI can actually go out. I have AI send me an email in the morning with a lot of stuff I look for. That's how I put this show together. AI actually does a lot of the work for me and sends me like a recap of some of the biggest stories in the world. And it is changing people's regular habits, and it's saving people time. Like, it saves me a ton of time to put it takes a lot to put this show together. I know most people don't believe it. We don't have a big budget, so we don't have anybody else doing it. Actually, Ian and I put this together, and we would do it like, it's it. We don't, like CBC, when I did an interview on the National there, I think 4 people called me. Like, one person called, like, but prior to the, like 2 minutes they give you there, I don't even know if I got 2 minutes, 90 seconds to talk about Bill C-18. And, like, a sound guy called me, a video guy called me, and then the interview guy, there's 4 calls. And I think the 5th call was the actual interviewer. So, I mean, they got a lot of staff. We got, this is it. We got a fox behind the camera there, but that's it. That's it. And then in our Are You Serious section, here's the fun part of the show. And there you go. CNN reports peaceful night in LA as majority of cars not on fire. Just the way you look at things, right? It's all in how you spin it, right? So the majority of cars not on fire. So obviously that means, must be very peaceful, right?
Wolf Blitzer there as well, looking like a desert fox in the headlights, isn't he? Just it's such a good. They've really they've mastered this art, haven't they? The Babylon Bee. I must credit them.
And then the next one here, this is the best one, I think. Crying baby on flight complains about being sat near Greta Thunberg. I would have been crying as well. But Greta, like, she just loves to play it up. So here's Greta Thunberg, appears to be, as she arrives in France, does the fake handcuff thing here, and so we got the picture there from the New York Post. The New York Post, like, that's they shouldn't be doing that. They're wrecking her whole kind of like her shtick, right? But we're gonna play a clip of her walking there, where you can see her, where she gets caught like just flipping her hands. There she goes right there. She just kind of flips her hands back there to kind of make it look like she's being escorted. But you know what? She didn't learn that on her own, because we went back in time and we found none other than AOC doing the same stuff. Here's AOC, Alexandria Cortez, Alexandra, what's her middle name? Ocasio-Cortez, right? She pretends as well. So let's play this clip with Alexandria, AOC, doing the handcuff walk here. Take the music off. There you go. She's got her hands behind her back there as she's, and then she pumps her hand. So she forgot that she was handcuffed, and she waved her hand to me. She's
the need to do the pump was too great, wasn't it?
She's just like, oh, man.
She is a complete clown, isn't she? But I mean, I keep hearing people speak of her as like the Democrats' next candidate for president, and that is believable. It's possible, but what the hell?
She makes Charlie Angus look. Well, I mean, she's very much more intelligent than Charlie Angus, but so.
She's got a lot more charisma, I would say.
Yeah. Like Charlie Angus, like I don't understand how he got elected in the first place. Like, what kind of, like, anyway, back to Charlie. And this one here, Gavin Newsom, he's definitely looking like he wants to become AOC. And he's talking about Pete Hegseth sent 4,700 troops here when they weren't needed without adequate fuel, water, or a place to sleep. Marines don't need you to give them anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's saying these poor Marines are sent there without a place to sleep, without fuel, without water. So the American military now has no fuel and no food. Such a shame, isn't it, Gavin?
They're in Los Angeles. They're in the second biggest city in America. I'm sure they can find food and water.
But I mean, this is what makes him not serious, because he puts this thing out saying that the troops are without adequate fuel, food, and water, or a place to sleep. You know, these Marines will sleep anywhere. They'll sleep in a ditch.
Well, they often do, yeah.
Gavin Newsom won't sleep in a ditch. He'll sleep with his friend's wife, but he won't sleep in a ditch. Was that too low?
Well, it's true, though, isn't it? So.
But yeah, this is.
I'm sure we're going to learn all about that when he runs for president. His infidelity when he was mayor of San Francisco, or whatever it was.
And he also put out a tweet that was completely disingenuous as well, and says that the police and the National Guard are kidnapping people because of their skin color.
That's just the old-fashioned Democratic Party way, isn't it? Yeah. That's their version of disinformation or whatever. I can't believe they're still doing that after everything that's happened. But
can we put that picture back up of the Marines there? Because maybe there should be a GoFundMe for the U.S. Marines or something. Because, you know, like to get them some water at least. Hey? This is the biggest, you know, like people will say, the most lethal fighting force in the world. And here they are sleeping without a place to sleep and no water, no food. And they don't even know how to go get water or food. How far the Marines have fallen, hey?
Yeah. It's quite an insult, really. And if you look at it that way.
Isn't it? You're basically...
But I'm sure at the same time, they probably would have rather had a nice bed to sleep in. So
they've slept in a lot worse, I can tell you that, for nothing. These guys are brothers, and then this is disrespectful, Mr. Newsom, of your biggest fighting force in the world. There you go, and just silliness, right? Absolute silliness. Anyway, Gavin, the fool of the day. Well, no, we have to give that to Charlie Angus, right?
Yeah.
We should have that.
Keep Charlie in mind.
We should have that at the fool of the day. Who's the fool of the day?
Yeah, that is a good idea. Yeah.
I think Charlie runs away with it today.
Evan Solomon sounded a bit silly there as well. And I mean, the thing is, most days we feature Melanie Joly, and we did today, and it's not fair because she will literally just win that every day. So I think we need, if we're going to be fair, then yeah, let's make it Charlie this time.
Charlie, definitely for the rhetoric. There you go. I think the Marines will be fine.
They'll go to Costco, get a hot dog and a soda, have a nice little schluff.
Yeah, I'm sure they have some communication devices if they need some water. Or they know how to make it to the tap that's probably in the building there. Do you know what I mean? Or is California saying they have no water still? Because they're in a building.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, that's our show for today. We're back tomorrow, 9 a.m. We do thank you for watching. We get no funding from the government. None. GC Strategies, I guess, took all the money. So they have all the money.
I wish we got that kind of funding. Maybe we should create an app.
Hey, we're two guys.
And sell it to the government.
Hey, we're two guys. We're two guys, and we're not even in a basement.
Yeah, that's a step up.
And we can find our way to water, Gavin Newsom. We can find our way to water and food. And I guess the price of fuel's gone down everywhere. Maybe Gavin Newsom, there's no fuel in California because they're not allowed to sell fuel. I don't know what he's talking about. And he is crazy. Absolutely crazy. There you go. That's our show. We do thank you for watching Now Media. We'll see you back tomorrow at 9 a.m. for our final show of the week. It's June 12th. Enjoy the day and I'll see you tomorrow.